Now, Doctor Who, I believe the programme, when you took over, just started becoming more adult.
I think it's really started becoming more adult when I took it over, because those were the conditions under which I took it over, was that I was able to adultize it, to use a better word. And since then, by playing it absolutely straight and playing it very much for real and bringing it to Earth, we brought it down from space, and so all the threats have happened to people on Earth so that they could identify more. Our figures have risen from about 6.5 million to 10 million a week. And now, on our repeat, which we're doing, the first repeat that Doctor Who's ever done, we're trying one, which starts, I think, this Friday at 7:30 on a Friday, as opposed to a Saturday. And we'll see, how this affects it, because we'll have many more adult viewers at that time, listeners at that time, of course, in the evening.
Is it a very difficult programme to film technically, with so many effects and monsters about?
Virtually impossible, yes. I don't know how we do it, really. We have an enormous special effects department, and I think that our special effects are some of the best in the world, compared with Star Trek, which is an excellent science fiction program from America. At least I think it was a marvelous program. I think it fizzled out towards the end. One has seen on countless occasions their special effects falling down, and even on one occasion I saw strings operating one of their floppy monsters. You could see the strings jamming about on the screen, which you would never see with ours.
No.
And of course their budget is probably 20 times what our budget is. And so we're able to do, I think, very remarkable things on the budget that we have. But it is a very technical program, and we have to produce 2 half-hour programs in a fortnight. We rehearse for 2 weeks. On the latter part of the second week, we record 2 programs in the studios in 2 days, and it's a remarkable achievement, I think.
You are here at the moment in Cabaret at the Webington. What sort of cabaret act do you present?
Well, a lot of people seem to be under the impression, of course, that this is a new venture for me. I mean, I've been illegitimate for many years. By that, of course, I was a variety comedian for many, many years. I started off in the Straight Theatre and did my usual rep and tours and whatnot and got into the West End. But then, the latter part of the war, I joined up with Eric Barker and worked in radio for years, and then went into the music hall and was in the music hall for many years. And this is only another branch, really, of music hall. It's another medium of music hall. And I've been doing cabaret almost ever since I started in light entertainment, which is just after the war. I'm now doing much more of it, of course, than I used to, because in Doctor Who it allows me to do so, because I rehearse during the day and I do cabarets at night.
You are well known for the many voices on your Navy Lark programme. Can you give us a few of them?
Well, that's a bit difficult without sort of scripts. There's the inevitable commander, who stutters, and there's these various characters like Birkinshaw, who repeats things after, and says, I'm very glad to see you. He echoes everything, and now we have this burbling burr-washer who talks to himself all the time. I'm very happy about this, because although I was sorry to see Ronnie go, Ronnie Barker, who was with us for many, many years, we've been running for nearly 14 years with this program. It's beaten all records. Excuse me. We've done over 200 broadcasts, which is sort of beaten all records of a comedy radio show. And Ronnie, of course, always did the eccentric voices, and I just played the chief. But now Ronnie's left, of course, the field is wide open, and I can put in all sorts of new characters, and this gives me great incentive, and I enjoy it enormously.
And you've been quoted as saying that the Navy Lark team is one happy family, and you can, in fact, sort of go into the studio, have just a quick glance at the script, and go straight through the programme.
Well, that is perfectly true. In fact, on one occasion, there was some muddle with the booking of the studio, and we went into the studio, we had a cup of tea, we read it through once, and we recorded it. It took us a little time. We had to repeat, as we often do. Leslie Phillips and I work very closely together. Now Ronnie's left. And very often we deliberately blow a whole scene so that we can do it again, and we stick cigarettes in our ears and we mess about and behave quite outrageously to get the audience giggly and get them laughing at it. But we are so relaxed, and we know each other so well that we can really do it right off the cuff, yes.
And I also believe that the live audience for the show is a very patriotic one, with some of the audience being regular patrons.
Yes, indeed they are. Some of them have been coming for years and years and years, and as I was saying on the television the other night that in Bristol, which I think you must have seen.
I must have seen it.
Is that they sit there and they get faxed across and they say, excuse me now, you can't sit here now, that's my seat, I've been sitting here for 12 years, it's my place, now you can move somewhere else. I get very uptight about it.
Your hobby, skin diving, I believe.
That's one of many, yes. I'm a skin diver. I water ski. I snow ski. I race motorcycles and any form of motorcyclic propulsion I love. But skin diving particularly is my main hobby here.
Well, out of this skin diving, I believe, has come a ring. I don't know whether you're wearing it now, but I know you displayed it on television the other night.
Yes, it is. That's a ring that I found in a Roman wreck off the coast of Spain. It's 850 years BC, and it's set in a setting which is 72 AD, which virtually means in the stories that the sailor who was wearing it when he was drowned thought that it was an antique to him, that when he found the coin that he made the ring into, it was 850 BC, so it was nearly 1,000 years old. So he said, oh, that's a really old thing, I'll make that into a ring as an antique. So it's much more of an antique now. This one around my neck, this is another one, this is King Demetrius III, and that is about 1,250 years before Christ.
Very nice. Well, antiques when they were found then, and then they lost them again, and now you've come up with them. You actually found it yourself, didn't you?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I found it myself, yes. And now I'm off on a new expedition in the north coast of Africa, where we think we've discovered where the Barbary pirates used to hang out. And I did a recce on it last year by land, and now we're going to do it by sea. And I know for a certainty where there are 3 or 4 brass cannon. And where there are brass cannon, there'll be other goodies to be found as well, I feel sure. That's only 35 foot of water, so it'll be very easy to get up.
Do you ever have any trouble with the excise people?
Oh, no, none. They're antiques. The only trouble that you might have, of course, is if I say, within the 3-mile limit. Then, of course, all the things that you find must be handed over to the various countries concerned. But if you're without the 3-mile limit, then this is free reign. This is treasure. Unless, of course, they put a blocker on it. They might say, we know where this wreck is, and this wreck has already got a license, like Ronald Morris's wreck of the Admiral Sir Cloudesley Shovel's boat, the Resolution, which sank off the Scilly Isles. He has the rights on that boat. I think he's lost them now. I think now it's open to anybody to go down and swim around.
Well, talking about the 3-mile limit, I believe you have a holiday home slightly more than 3 miles out. In fact, in the Mediterranean island of Ibiza, is it?
Ibiza, yes, TH, that's right, in the Balearic Islands. I went out there some 15 years ago, in fact, to dive on a wreck, and that's what first took me to the island, and I grew to love it. And then my wife was provided by her father with a house, and we built this house in the island up in the mountains, and there we go with our children every year. We go there in the summer and in Christmas to get the opportunity.
You have a wife, Ingeborg, is it, the pronunciation?
Very good, yes, quite right, Ingeborg. Yes.
And a daughter and a son. Is it Dariel and Sean?
Yes, you're very well informed, I must say.
Very well informed, yes. How are they at the moment?
How are they? Yeah. I think appalling, but very fit and well, and they're splendid children. They're obviously going to go into the theatre, I think, much against my will. The little girl is 9, and the boy is 7. And they love the water. Sean doesn't actually swim on the surface. He swims very good under the water. The trouble is that he can't come up, of course, because he can't actually have any propulsion on the surface, but he leaps straight off my boat into the sea. One has to plummet in and get him because he goes straight to the bottom, but he doesn't seem to throw in very much. But my daughter swims like a fish. She's very good in the water.
Well, in your many radio roles, your television performances, and of course you go about the country doing cabaret, does your wife mind all this travelling about that you have to do?
She doesn't mind at all. She never comes. She doesn't care. I think that I don't do it that much, remember. I mean, I'm 9 months of the year, I'm stuck in London doing Doctor Who. The only time I do go away, of course, is on location, because before every group of 5 stories or 6 stories or however long the story takes, we go out on filming locations, so we might go for 10 days or a fortnight. But again, I don't take my wife and family. I don't agree with mixing up one's family and one's work. He doesn't go. I feel then a sense of responsibility to the children and to her. And the kids are at school, and it means dragging them out of school, and then who's to look after them, who's to bring them from school and so on. So it's better to separate it, and we go away on holiday together by ourselves. I've just been to Crete, which I always wanted to go and see, the famous palaces of Knossos and Gornia. And my wife and I went there and we've driven all over the island. I would come back and then we'll go off for our family holiday with the children.
Well, finally, have you your own favourite comedians?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have. Unfortunately, not many of them. I think that Jack Benny is a brilliant comedian because he doesn't do anything, and I think that's the great secret of being able to stand still and just, with this complete composure and be desperately funny.
I may just butt in there. I asked exactly the same question to comedian Dave Allen, and it was exactly the same answer he gave.
Well, it's funny. Dave is a great friend of mine, and in fact, he started as a comedian practically with me. He came from Butlins, and he and I worked out in Jersey together. And I like him for the same reason, that he's real. And he used to do his act in American, and I used to say, don't do that, that's crazy. You're Irish, you've got all the charm in the world. Do it in your own lingo. He says, oh, nobody wants to hear anybody talking Irish. I said, yes, they do, and he did it, and look at where he is now. Because his stories are believable, and I try to make mine believable, and that's why the work here for me is a little difficult, because I tell stories, I'm a raconteur, the stories take quite a long time, and sometimes it's a little difficult to hold them. This is my work. I'm not a one-line flip artist. I try to make it sort of believable. Other comedians, the greatest comedian I've ever seen in my life, bar none, was the late Sid Field. There was never anybody in the world funnier than that man, and that was agreed by Groucho Marx, who went there, and Danny Kaye, who I know very well, who I went to see Sid Field with them, and they just, at the interval, they said, oh my God, we give up, we're retiring, what can you do? This man is a genius, and he was. Tony Hanks